to Book Your Success, the online show for entrepreneurs, by entrepreneurs, about entrepreneurs. This show spotlights authors who have books which provide information, innovation, and inspiration needed by successful entrepreneurs and business professionals. It includes a special focus on how authors use their book to market and build their brand. Let's join host and entrepreneur Anita Paul with today's guest.
Hi everyone, welcome to Book Your Success. I'm Anita Paul, the author's midwife with WriteYourLife.net. We are glad that you have joined us here on this episode of Book Your Success. You know, we broadcast live on the first and third Tuesday, and we're excited to have you here. You know, today's show is sponsored by the Intellectual Exchange Group, LLC. They offer audio engineering classes for youth 12 and above, so they can teach those young people some very handy skills about audio and video engineering. Be sure to get in touch with them if you are interested in individual or group classes. Call them at 404-234-4301. That's the Intellectual Exchange Group, LLC. Now, I will tell you, we have a phenomenal guest in the studio today. Dr. Glenn Parris. He is a practicing physician serving the Northeast Georgia area for the past 20 years, so he knows his stuff. He's a specialist in internal medicine with a subspecialty in rheumatology, and we're going to talk a lot about that today. He attended medical school in Buffalo and lived in Queens, New York, for most of his early life, but he now lives in Atlanta, Georgia. He's a postgraduate. He did his postgraduate study at Emory University and spent several years at Grady Memorial Hospital. Now, he has been inspired by quite a few authors, some of whom you'll recognize the names. We may get into that a little bit later. He attended a workshop for aspiring physician writers, and I just found that very, very interesting. And those influences, both the other authors and the writing group that he attended, really influenced his writing style and his character-driven medical novel that he has written called The Renaissance of Aspirin. You're going to be surprised what this book is about. It has nothing to do with aspirin, but I'm very excited to welcome Dr. Glenn Parris to the show. Thanks so much for being here.
Anita, thank you very much for inviting me.
And the great thing about it is that we actually have him in the studio on his birthday, so I wish you a happy birthday.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about your medical practice and give us some background on rheumatology. What is that focus?
Rheumatology. Rheumatology is the study of autoimmune diseases, arthritic disorders, chronic inflammatory disease. And it includes entities such as rheumatoid arthritis, of course, but also vasculitis, lupus, osteoarthritis, and, of course, fibromyalgia syndrome.
Fibromyalgia. What is fibromyalgia? We've heard of that. Who's most likely to get it? Tell us some.
Fibromyalgia is a chronic disease that's characterized by exquisite pain, fatigue, and sleep disturbance, and some mental dulling. It causes some slowing of concentration, thought, memory.
Okay. So is there a particular population segment that's highly susceptible to it?
Yeah, it seems to be. Women tend to get it much more often than men. 90% of sufferers are women. And usually in the age range of about 30 to 70 or so. Okay.
Is it hereditary?
You know, that's one of the things that we'll be addressing in the upcoming summit.
Okay.
You know, the genetics of fibromyalgia, the biology of fibromyalgia, the pathology, and some of the new upcoming treatments for it. But to our knowledge, we have not really elucidated genetics on fibromyalgia syndrome.
Interesting. Tell me a little bit more about some of the symptoms. Like, how would I know if I was experiencing, and not confusing it with something else?
That is the key point. When you look at fibromyalgia, we don't have any markers for it. We don't have any lab tests. We don't have any physiologic tests like EKGs or EMGs or EEGs, that cardiologists and neurologists have for different muscle diseases. We don't have blood tests for it. If we have somebody who's got diabetes, naturally we can measure their blood sugar until it's high. If you're dealing with somebody with hypertension, you check their blood pressure, it's high. If someone has a heart attack, you get an EKG and so on and so forth. We don't have anything like that for fibromyalgia syndrome.
So someone would just come into your office and they have these odd symptoms.
They have these odd symptoms, and primarily the symptoms are pain, sensitivity to pressure and touch, fatigue, lack of concentration, and sleep disturbance, non-restorative sleep.
That sounds like stress. I deal with that a lot.
Well,
can't sleep, hard to concentrate.
Well, this is sort of like stress on steroids.
Okay. So that's how you distinguish. I want to say hi to some of the folks in the chat room. Hey to Jonas and hello to Cheryl. I know there's some other people hiding out in the chat room, so I'd love for you to chime in, log in, ask some questions. We're talking about rheumatology and also talking about fibromyalgia with Dr. Glenn Parris. And there's a reason that we're talking about this. Trust me, it does relate to his book. And you talk about this in the book. This is an underlying premise.
Right.
In the book. Why are you writing about this?
I've been doing this. I've been in private practice for 21 years, but I've been interested in rheumatology for about 27. And one of the most frustrating things has been fibromyalgia. We've gotten so much better at treating rheumatoid, gout, lupus, osteoarthritis, but fibromyalgia syndrome, we're not much better now than we were 25 years ago. We're sort of flying blind. It's very, very difficult to treat anything that you can't measure. So we have a very difficult time objectively measuring things. People have pain; they have exquisite pain, and I describe them as screaming silently, but because no one seems to hear them. They tell you, "I'm really in pain. This really hurts." And when you offer them a scale of 0 to 10, they often say it's 20.
Off the chart.
Yeah, it's over the top, and it's nonstop. I mean, if you break your leg or twist your ankle, you're going to hurt for a few weeks, a few days, in a few months, you're going to be just back to normal with a little physical therapy. These people go on for months, years, sometimes decades, with unrelenting pain, nonstop.
It develops over time. Then
it develops over time. It becomes worse and worse. And I find that if you get a handle on it fairly early, you have a better chance of getting it under control. But it's just very, very difficult to manage. Combinations of medications, physical therapy, improved sleep, enhanced exercise, weight loss, all those things help. A good diet, a good balanced diet. When people ask me, what kind of diet do I need to go on? Eat like your mother is watching you. Watch the carbohydrates, smaller portions of red meat, more fish, more chicken, nuts, vegetables, and portion control.
Right. All the things we already know.
Right. It's not rocket science.
Okay.
It's not rocket science. But that's one part. Sleep hygiene, trying to go to sleep at about the same time each night. Shut off all distractions. Turn off the radio.
Sleep like a 3-year-old.
Sleep like a 3-year-old. I like that. I'm going to steal that from you. I'm on my way to being a great writer. Good writers borrow, great writers steal.
You got it.
So
that's free. I'm going to charge you for the next one.
Okay. And I think we got witnesses. You want to go to bed about the same time each night. You want to cut out distractions. Don't read in bed. Don't listen to music unless you're reading the Renaissance of Aspirin.
Of course.
Turn off the television. And if you're going to have a conversation with your significant other or family, have it outside of the bedroom. The bedroom is just for sleeping. So, those are some of the things, the basics of what we do for fibromyalgia.
So, what do you hope the book will do for the fibro community and treatment and visibility of the disease?
I hope that the book is a vehicle for fibromyalgia awareness. Because of what I do, I'm surrounded by fibromyalgia all the time. But when I go out into the public, I get these arched eyebrows about fibromyalgia. What is that? And I'm thinking, doesn't everybody know what fibromyalgia is? And obviously, no, they don't. So, I explain what it is to them. For those who are familiar with it but don't have it, a lot of times they say, isn't that like a wastebasket diagnosis? No, it isn't. And the reason they think that it might be is because There's no test for it, no blood test, no physiologic test, no X-ray or imaging test. You can't even get a biopsy that shows very much, although that may be changing. I'll get to that later.
Okay.
But because of that, one of the treatments is manipulating neurotransmitters. Well, neurotransmitters mediate mood, okay, so they mediate depression, but they also mediate pain signal. So we use some of the same medicines for depression that we use for fibro, not because they are the same thing, but because the signals mediate different things.
Okay. So what is that test like? The neurotransmitter
Well, we
measurement?
don't actually measure those clinically, but we know which ones cause problems. Serotonin is a favorite, norepinephrine is another, dopamine is yet another, and all these and GABA is another. So all of these signals allow neurons or brain cells or nerve cells to communicate with one another.
Okay.
Right. So if you spill hot water on your knee, or you drop a hot fork on your foot, or cut yourself, that signal goes up to the brain, and you interpret what happened based on the combination of signals. It's like a telegraph.
Okay, so then if those neurotransmitters are not communicating the way they're supposed to,
Well, they kind of amplified. I mean, that's part of the problem.
Okay.
So patients with fibromyalgia will often have problems with intimacy. So a significant other will hug them or kiss them or touch them, and they interpret it as pain. They don't want to, but that can be a real strain on a relationship.
wow, that's amazing. So we have a question in the chat room. Why a novel and not a medical article? Although I would imagine that you've written plenty of medical articles.
I've written some. And, that's a great question. There are a lot of self-help and how-to books and did you know books about fibromyalgia. But there's never been a fictional depiction of fibromyalgia or a story that can engage with fibromyalgia as a centerpiece.
Interesting. So tell us, without the whole spoiler thing, because it is a good, and it is meaty. This is a thick book, and it's interesting. It's a page turner. Give us the premise of the book.
Well,
A couple of characters.
Sure. Well, this is a book about a cure for fibromyalgia. It's fictitious. This is all made up. Unfortunately, I wish it were real. But it's a book of, and this is not something that normally is associated with fibromyalgia. This is a book of intrigue, passion, sabotage, and murder. Jack Wheaton, I guess, is the protagonist. I want to call him a hero, but he falls a little short of that. But he's an interesting guy. He's a resident physician. That means he's still in training, so he's not out there practicing yet. But he's a senior resident, so he's almost finished. He's got one more year to go, and he's tasked with training this intern, this mystery doc, Anita Thomas.
We love her, by the way. Her name
Yeah,
is
she's got a
Anita.
great name, a terrific name. So Anita is this absolutely drop-dead gorgeous, of course, intern that is the center of attention of so many different people. And Jack is absolutely infatuated with her. But turns out that she seems to know more medicine than he does, so which is very unusual for an intern. They're sort of just above medical students. So he's befuddled by her incredible knowledge and the interest that surrounds her, and then a lot of mysterious things start happening around her. So Anita is more than she seems, and we discover that she's on the run. And some of the people who are chasing her are very interesting and very scary.
And very dangerous. Yes.
And some of the people who are her allies and help her and help protect her are very interesting and very funny and very peculiar. I like to think unforgettable. So we'll see.
So we have a wonderful book cover, and for those of you, tell us where the book is set.
Well, the book is set in Atlanta. It starts off in Boston, but the fireworks really go off in Atlanta. So
hence the cover.
Yes.
If you've ever been to Atlanta or live here, then you know.
So this is the king and queen, and this is really quite a chess match between Anita and her camp and the antagonists in theirs.
Very nice. I like how you did that. You will love this book. It is quite a page turner. I haven't read a novel in a really long time. So I was talking to Dr. Parris and mentioned that most of the authors we have on the show are business focused. We've had some children's book authors, and I haven't had a chance to read a good novel in a long time. So I really enjoyed this.
Well, you asked me earlier about some of my inspirations. And, I'm a big fan of John Grisham, but also Robin Cook and Michael Crichton. I like his novels. My mentors were Tess Gerritsen and Michael Palmer, who recently passed. In fact, I went for my 50th, today is my birthday, as we mentioned. For my 50th birthday, I went away to a conference.
Last year.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, last year. I went away to a conference in Boston where they offered to teach, a workshop where they offered to teach doctors who were interested in writing how to write fiction. And Tess Gerritsen actually gave us an assignment. And she said, I want you to come up with 2 characters who have some romantic friction but don't get together. And I said, okay. And I wrote a paragraph about it like I was supposed to. Then I wrote another paragraph about it. Then I wrote a couple of pages, and that's when I knew I had a book.
Good. And that's how it happens sometimes. That is how it happens. Quick question again from the chat room. Is death associated with the disease, with fibromyalgia, or is it painful? I don't want to say just painful, but is it just the pain that's experienced, or is there a threat of
If I could, I think I answered it best in the book. And let me just read
Absolutely.
The first quote in the book. You know what fibro is? It's the devil's favorite torture. Hurts like hell, but doesn't leave a trace of evidence. Not a mark. Dr. Jack Wheaton. That is a better definition for fibro than we have in any textbook.
So you would say that there have been patients who wish they were dead.
There are patients
than
who
to go through the pain.
Because they say, when is it ever going to stop? And I'm sure that there are things that are more painful than the pain of fibromyalgia. But those things stop.
Right.
If you burn yourself, that's a few seconds, and then you recover from the burn, and you get a scab and you peel. If you break a finger, again, it heals. If you cut yourself, it heals. This doesn't.
Constant pain.
Constant pain, never-ending pain, day and night.
Interesting. We're in the studio with Dr. Glenn Parris. He is the author of The Renaissance of Aspirin. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and then we'll be back with Book Your Success.
What happens when soldiers come home? Brene Foundation offers hero support to ensure that our heroes abroad can continue to be heroes at home. We link veterans with organizations who are dedicated to guiding the transition from military hero to civilian hero. If you want to find out how you can support our troops at home, please contact the Brene Foundation or visit brene.com.
I'm Dr. Altieri, and welcome to our office.
And I'm Dr. Cavallo. We're co-owners of AC Spine and Wellness. We've been located here in Lawrenceville for the past 21 years. We'd like to thank you in advance for looking at our website and for taking a virtual tour of our office with us.
What we do is we work with people of all ages, from birth through to senior citizens, and we do it in a natural way. We want to get you healthy and keep you healthy.
What we've done recently is integrated our office, creating a chiropractic and a medical group together. What this does is allows you to get the optimal wellness that you deserve as a person.
Thank you for visiting our office and our website, and make sure you take time to go into our new patient section where we offer different specials monthly.
And remember, we're trying to create a healthier world naturally.
How does your small business stay top of mind with customers? From deals that bring them in with an offer, to social media promotions that turn fans into customers, to events that engage and create buzz, to emails that keep loyal customers coming back. Our easy-to-use tools.
And welcome back to Book Your Success. Again, I'm Anita Paul, the author's midwife with WriteYourLife.net. I'm in the studio with Dr. Glenn Parris. He is the author of The Renaissance of Aspirin, a fantastic, mysterious, heart-pounding, page-turning novel. We're really glad to have him in the studio, and we're very happy to be sponsored once again by the Intellectual Exchange Group. If you have some young people who are interested in learning the fine arts of audio and video production, be sure to get in touch with the Intellectual Exchange Group. You can reach them at 404-234-4301, and they have some classes, and they have individual and group instruction. They will absolutely love it. It's a great thing for young people to do. Before we get back to Dr. Parris, I want to take a question from the chat room. How do you keep the interest of the reader, but get across the importance of fibromyalgia? Good question.
It is a good question. One of the problems that doctors have in general is, we tend to speak as we were trained to speak in medicalese, and translating to English is not always as easy as it should be, and sometimes we think we're doing a better job than we are. So I had to be
when
very
you
careful.
come in the office talking about neurotransmitters and all that kind of stuff, you lost me at hello.
And we do a lot of that in medicine. So what I thought I would do is, of course, my patients are very, very complicated, and they can really tear your heart out with some of the stories that you hear about fibromyalgia year after year. But what I thought I'd do is make some composite characters, and composites of different levels of fibromyalgia, if you will. And this is not formal, but some patients with fibro are completely disabled by it, but others, continue to work and function. Unfortunately, a lot of times fibro patients can hold down a job, they can do a good job at it, and then when they get home, they're just all in.
Right.
I mean, there's nothing left. So, they can't cook a meal, they can't engage family, they can't go out and socialize. They can go to bed and come back to work and then do the same old drag all over again. So what I did was I put different characters, different features of fibro in different characters. And some of them I label. Right off the bat, the first two characters that you meet have fibromyalgia.
Right.
But then I introduce a couple of more who, I tell you that they've got it, but nobody else knows that they've got it. And then as the story goes on, a few more people have either fibromyalgia or some variant, chronic fatigue or PTSD or depression or some other issue that interferes with their lives in similar ways.
Okay, so would any of your patients recognize themselves in the book? No. Good, very good.
My characters are very complicated, but my patients are much more complicated.
I'm sure.
If I put one of them in there, no one would believe it.
Oh,
Say,
wow.
you're really over the top making this stuff up. I said, no, this is real.
Yeah, I can imagine. Tell us a little bit about the treatment and how you determine what treatment is best for which patient.
I'm a big believer in less is more. So the least amount of medicine that I can prescribe is probably the best. But at the same time, I've got a goal in mind. I would like them to be as close to pain-free as possible, keeping in mind that some patients, no matter how much pain medicine you give, you never quite get to the, it's sort of like one of those math problems from high school, pi. The number gets bigger and bigger, but you never quite get to the end. And it's sort of like that. So, you want to get the best combination of medicines for a given individual, and you get feedback. And I think that the best way of approaching a patient's problem is with a partnership.
Right.
So
because there has to be some trial in this, right?
There has to be some trial, but you need feedback from the patient. This worked, this didn't work. This is what I get. This is how long I did it. And I often ask my patients to keep a diary.
Good.
Or a journal of how they responded to medications, what time of day they get certain symptoms, what seems to help, what happens when they have some time off, a vacation, a trip.
Okay. Well, that's very detailed. And this is physical and mental, emotional.
Correct. For the most part, most of us doctors get about 70% of what we know about a patient from the patient. And we get another 20% with the laying on of hands, the physical examination, and we get another 10% with diagnostic tests. And this evolves over time. So we continue to ask the questions, do the examinations, do the tests. And one of the problems with dealing with fibromyalgia syndrome is that once we make the diagnosis, sometimes we attribute everything that happens in that patient's life to fibro. And it's not. You have to look at them like you look at any other patient.
Right.
They get colds, they get pneumonias, they get
Sometimes
heart attacks,
a headache
they get
is
injuries.
just a headache.
Sometimes the headache is just a headache, but sometimes it's not. So, it behooves us as physicians, I think, to really dig down, investigate, and listen to the patients.
Good. So you have a wonderful foundation for information for this kind of book.
Right.
Tell us about what your writing process was like.
Oh,
Did you outline the book? Are you a free writer?
It's funny. I did. I think what you're referring to is, am I an outliner or am I a pants or seat of the pants writer?
That's right.
So I start off with an outline. So I get the whole story outlined. And then I dig into writing. And once I develop a character and actually hear the character in my mind, the character then goes off and does what he or she is going to do. And they don't respect my outlines.
Of course not.
They really don't. So
you created them, so they're going to go.
Yeah, they're kind of like children. I mean, you made them, but once they're out, man, they're
they
on
have
their
a life
own.
of their own.
They really do. So in a lot of cases, I rewrite chapters and I rewrite plots, and some characters evolve into other characters. There's one character in the story, Candy Bar, who is supposed to have just a very brief, and her name is Candy Bar. So,
yes.
It brings to mind all kinds of things. But it was such an interesting name. I had to do more with it. She just kind of grew.
Can be frightening sometimes, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. Scary in there.
Scary. One more question from the chat room. Fibro sounds like MS.
Multiple sclerosis.
What's the difference?
What's the difference? Multiple sclerosis is actually a neurologic disease, and there's actually some damage to often the white matter in the brain, central nervous system, spinal cord. And there are lesions that can be observed on MRI scan. There are abnormalities that can be seen on observation of the retina of the eye and spinal fluid. Okay. And the treatment for it is much, much different. You actually can manipulate MS in different ways. And yes, the common thing is this business about neurotransmitters. But in fibromyalgia syndrome, it's not so much that they're damaging the nervous system of the brain. It's more a situation where the signal that's being conveyed gets amplified, and they're usually pain signals. They're not pleasant signals.
Okay. What do you wish everybody else, like the rest of us, knew about fibro that we don't know?
I wish that we could actually feel or measure an individual's pain. Because, all we have to measure pain is a description from the individual. And my pain is different from your pain. And maybe you can take pain better than I can, but eventually you get to the point where you've had enough.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you how many fibro patients I've met, and they tell me I have a high pain threshold. And we try to manage, and we go month after month, year after year, and somewhere along the way, and I've taken care of some of these patients for 20 years, it's, I give up. Give me something for this pain. I can't take this anymore.
So what in your practice, what are you doing to help develop some kind of a measurement tool?
Well, we have a number of scales that we measure pain by, we measure fatigue by, and we continually ask patients, what's going on, what's different, what works, what doesn't work. And I periodically go to conferences where I learn about fibromyalgia, new treatments, new diagnostic tests.
Okay.
So we're learning about small fiber neuropathies. We're learning about modified MRI scans of the brain to see where fibromyalgia patients in pain differ from the norm. So there are some things that are coming out.
Okay.
We are learning about fibromyalgia.
Good.
At a recent conference, there were no fewer than 25 scholarly articles written about fibromyalgia. So the research is there.
Good. Now there's a conference coming up
here
in Atlanta.
We're having a fibromyalgia summit coming up. And this will be held very close to here at the Marriott near Perimeter, at the foot of the King and Queen building, by the way. where we're going to invite rheumatologists, pain specialists, anesthesia pain specialists, chiropractors, naturopaths, acupuncturists, to talk about what they know about fibro, what works, and what the future is, what the research shows, and what kinds of treatments we may develop in the future.
Okay. Is it open to the public?
It's open to the public, and it is free.
Great. And the date?
The date is May 17th from 9 to 4.
Alrighty. And how can we get more information
You
then?
can get more information at www.atlantafibrosummit.com.
Okay, AtlantaFibroSummit.com, and that summit is on May 17th, so be sure to check it out on the website. Hopefully you can attend. Want to say hello to some more folks who've joined us in the chat room. Samantha, hello. Alan, thanks for joining us, and hey again to Cheryl and Jonas. We've got just another minute or so if you have a question, hurry up and get it in there real quickly. Wanted to know what's coming up next for you. I know there's another book in there.
There's another book. The book is called The First in the Jack Wheaton Mysteries. Mm-hmm. So there are a number of stories that involve Jack Wheaton and the capacity of an investigator or a physician, where he gets into trouble and gets out of trouble, and some of his friends are still by waiting for him and helping him, and some of his antagonists are still out there in the wings waiting for him and laying for him. So, his troubles and tribulations are not over yet.
They will continue.
They will continue.
And we'll have to read the next book when it comes out. I like that. Dr. Glenn Parris, thank you so much for joining us.
Well,
on
thank you very much
Success.
for having me.
Thanks, everybody, for being here. We will see you next time.
Thank you for joining us. Today's show can be viewed again in archives on our website at www.bizlinks.tv. If you are an entrepreneur and would like to appear on the program to discuss your book and share how you utilize it to enhance your business platform, submit an inquiry to book your success at bizlinks.tv. In addition, information on advertising and hosting your own show can be found on our website at www.bizlinks.tv.